Hello and welcome to Game Soup with Chloe and Kayla. This is a game design podcast where we fry ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. How are you doing, Chloe?
I'm good. I have had a very uneventful week. I had a stressful day at work, and then because it's January, I only had one shift this week. So, love working in the cinema.
Ouch. That's not so fun. Have you got anything nice planned for the rest of the week to make up for the shitty run of it so far?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to go for a little drive down to some of the nearby game stores that are like a little bit further afield, like ones in Durham and stuff, because there's some cool stuff that I've been seeing on the internet. So go have a little nosy.
Nice.
How about you, Cakes?
How was my week? I feel like I've normally had a good week, but I still have no hot water, which is putting a sort of frustrating cloud on it. I can have a shower because that is not on our boiler system. It's a power shower, but it's a different bathroom than usual, which runs over a bath. So I had to get back out the bath board I'd packed away. But this aside, I've had a good week. I've read a lot of books. I went to see Sentimental Value, which I really liked, and now anytime I refer to it, I keep calling it sentimenty.
What's Sentimental Value?
It's a film. It got nominated for a few Oscars with Stellan Skarsgård and Elle Fanning. It's by the person who did The Worst Person in the World. It's mainly about the main character is a woman who's an Oslo actress, and her absentee father is a famous director, and in the aftermath of their mum, his ex-wife's funeral, he's making a film that he wants to cast her in. She refuses, and so then that's what brings in Elle Fanning. It's a lot about film, but also I guess generational trauma,
family
and depression. Stuff, yeah, and I think it's really good. I think there's a good chance Stellan Skarsgård gets the Oscar for it, and I could see one of the performances from Sentimental Value getting Best Supporting Actress too. I don't know which, whether it will be Elle Fanning or the woman who plays the sister. Yeah, but that was fun. I also went to see Mulholland Drive at the BFI IMAX, and I have a great recommendation for anyone who wants to see films cheaper at the IMAX or things. Get a friend in a wheelchair. Because that will cut the price of the ticket in half. You just split one ticket between two people. But I will also say, the wheelchair space, the vantage point on a BFI screen it's a great vantage point there. And I'd never seen Mulholland Drive, so that was fun and cool. It's a Lynch film.
Yeah, I mean, at the cinema we work at, you have to have a carer card or whatever, so you can't just be yeah, I'm in a wheelchair, free seat, please.
So if you see someone in a wheelchair with a carer, but they don't have the card, you can't give them the free ticket.
Oh, I mean, if you are my boss listening, you shouldn't be listening to this. It's my personal project. I do give them the free ticket. I'm officially meant to have documentation, the CEA card, or a place that they a care facility or company that they work with. But oops, they forgot their card at home, I'm not a cop.
Well, I know lots of places have a thing where it's documentation may be required. And in my experience, if you show up with kind of any mobility aid, honestly, they don't question you there. Because at that point, when it's only maybe required, it's we don't actually need to do the jobs checking. Though I used to have the CEA card when I was a kid, but I don't have a renewed one currently. I just tend to rely more on
goodwill.
Come on, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm booking in person. Let me split the price.
Come on, I'm just a little guy.
But yeah, that was fun. This episode might normally have a theme. Welcome everyone to the free player episode. We're not introducing a third co-host.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we planned this in advance, we'd have a third host, but we didn't, so...
Because last week, on the episode we did, the one main game we came up with, like the Witches of Oz, we at one point were pitching that as a free player game with kind of a dual half GMs and one player. And then that made me think about, because when I originally playtested Nemesis Retribution, it was only with 2 other people, and there was a time immediately after that where I did consider maybe doing that as a free player game, like 1 player hero, 1 player villain, 1 GM. And there's like a rule set in that for free players that gives more specific instructions versus the larger player 1 or the 2 player 1. But it made me think about, like, I think there's a lot of fun stuff you can explore with specifically free that obviously would break down if you had more or less, but I think if you're doing that is a fun angle.
Yeah.
Do you know any specifically free player games?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, honestly. Yeah.
Have you played many games with just 3 people, including yourself?
I mean, I've certainly GM'd, like, dungeon crawlers where there's only 2 players and a GM, but not like anything specifically built for it.
But yeah, but you have, because I know some people don't necessarily like playing in a free player group. I think some people who are shy. I can enjoy it, but obviously it does. But like, I've played a lot of games with just 3 players. Like I say, that original playtest of Nemesis Retribution.
Yeah, I've done some play tests with 3 players. Yeah, to be fair.
Laurie ran Mothership for me and someone else, which was just like 2 player. And like, I think that in a GM and 2 works quite well. I did think, because a lot of what I do at the moment is anthologies, even though admittedly my next 3 likely projects are not, but like, it's a format I like. I thought, like, oh, if I did say ever write up that Witches of Oz game, depending on its length, that could be fun to play at pair with some other free player games. So you had the idea of, let's do our random generator as usual, but we maybe have this extra seasoning on it of trying to narrow it down to 3 players.
I've kind of thought of an idea. So, yeah, I mean, like, I was talking about dungeon crawlers. It's like your typical, like your original red box shit for D&D was like you have your magic user, your fighter, and your thief. So like those are your like your 3 roles. So what if we had a dungeon crawler, like a fantasy thing, where each player was assigned one of these things, but then, the magic user also is the GM for anything magical, and the fighter is anything warlike, and like the thief does social stuff or something like that, and you rotate it around maybe like that a little bit.
I like this idea, but I'd maybe raise a twist. Maybe in the GM responsibilities, it's more a rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, no, the magic user wants to be interacting with the magic rather than...
Yeah, so the magic is GM'd by the fighter, the war-relating stuff is GM'd by the thief, and the thieving is GM'd by the magic user.
Yeah.
You've played more dungeon crawlers than me, almost definitely.
Probably, yeah.
It's not really a genre I'm massively familiar with. Like, Psycho Dungeon is nominally dungeon crawling, but if you look at like the bibliography of it, you see that like all of its influences are other belonging outside belonging games, and its dungeon crawling trace is more from video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what appeals to them about what appeals about them to you?
It's just, in my head, it's sort of like an text. Like, everybody knows when you say, oh yeah, we're doing a D&D, we're doing a dungeon crawl, oh, there's going to be a thief, there's going to be a big man with a sword, there's going to be a Gandalf type, big man with beard and stick. His cloak has stars on it. Like, and so you can then start to play in that space a bit more, especially with, like, if this was like, not to be derogatory of it, but like baby's first story game. It's like, oh, I already know the genre I'm working in because I've played Dungeons and Dragons. So I can now start to be a bit more experimental with it. I can start to be like, I don't have to be like, so yeah, it's sci-fi and there's Dune. It's like Dune. You've read Dune? I've not read Dune. Oh, well, and I don't know. Like, no, it's there's a dungeon, there's goblins,
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think, like, obviously it does, like, carve out a more specific set of players. Like, obviously, you'd actually get that "have you played Dune" interaction with me if you talked about dungeon crawlers, but I'm broadly an exemption to, I think, most people. Like, I get what you're saying. It's familiar enough that, like, twists on it are simple because you're going from this shared grounding. I think, what kind of size do you imagine this game you've pitched? Because
Oh, I mean, this is like a zine, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, here is how. I think like I would literally pitch this at a convention, like, oh, if you've never played a story game before, I would recommend Fighter Thief Mage or whatever I'd call it. And it sort of splits up the GMing responsibilities between the group and whatever, and then it's a good sort of stepping off point into more free-form story gaming. And
yeah. Would you write it with a specific dungeon, or would that be more like world built via the GMing stuff?
I think I'd give like a structure for it, so it would be like you generally want to have a town bit, and then going to a dungeon or whatever, going to a fighting sequence, and then there's like a discovery sequence with magic or whatever, and maybe there's some people you talk to in the thing, so you like go back and forth between the different roles as the GM. But I wouldn't be like, and then you go into the dungeon of the Fountain Port Bell. Like,
Yeah, maybe if you're doing this as some kind of like intro to a different style of gaming thing, I guess you'd want to lean on the kind of stuff you might imagine facilitator figures doing in more complicated games and
yeah,
model them in the sort of restriction you do of that. That sounds, I could see this being a game you write.
yeah. It's like Tournament Arc really leans on you knowing the genre. I mean, and so another story game sort of thing like that you're expected to know the genre so that you can then play more freely in the space rather than like, I don't know, Dream Skewer, they're having to explain the post-apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah, I think like
Yeah,
that's a through line of a lot of, not all, but a lot of stuff you write is it's kind of in conversation with another medium or genre or something.
yeah,
Like, I think that's, the focus of Goblin and Kobold Country is relying on like the familiarity with these creatures, and Mouse Wife. I said Mouse Wife.
close enough. Mouse House.
Mouse Wife and Mouse in the House, like, or at least in conversation with those kind of borrowers-esque, Red Wall kind of things. Do we want to go to our random word generator for another free player idea?
Yeah, go on. I don't have another one in me. I don't have another pitch like that. Okay, my word is beam.
Beam.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I had Lost World, like a kind of, world out of time or place or something. And Beam, for some reason, this immediately gave me the idea of, are you familiar with the comic book character Adam Strange?
I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you what he does.
Well, his thing is like he's transported by a Zeta beam to the planet Rann, I want to say.
Sure.
With two N's. And then he has sort of, sci-fi space adventures on this other planet. But I was thinking of this idea, like, with just Beam and this Lost World concept, is it something about, like, getting beamed out of time?
Yeah, okay, so what, to like a distant future or maybe like dinosaur times or something?
Dinosaur times feel funner than a distant future.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually thinking the other day about like what would a game where you play as cavemen be. So like, I don't know, like playing like in a sort of anachronistic time where there's cavemen and dinosaurs and lizard people and whatever.
Or actually, this could be an angle. You could all be getting beamed to some kind of like world that's just collecting all of these things from out of time. So it's this contained anachronistic island where there's both like cavemen, dinosaurs, and then like maybe even some like early like Bronze Age stuff, or you could then have like fighter pilots or stuff depending on what you want. So here's a setting that we've got, at least a
Yeah.
vaguely interesting adventure setting. I guess the beat is you create a character from an era, they get beamed to this thing, and their mission is probably to escape it, I'd assume.
Yeah. I think I'd sort of probably structure it like the Doctor Who RPG. I don't know if you've ever read it, but like you make your companions and they all have like, yeah, okay, I'm from a council estate and I have this level of knowledge and whatever else.
Yeah. I think this may be. It's definitely not the first time we've referenced a Doctor Who RPG. Thinking in a free player's way, I wonder if there could be something interesting about like a rotating GM. I almost wonder this now, almost maybe as a sort of like hack on death game, where there the GM rotates when you die. Maybe here it's like the GM rotates whenever anyone is like beamed in or out.
Yeah. I was thinking like maybe one player is from the past and the present and the future or something, but that's kind of. You'd also need a GM, but.
Or maybe, yeah, or maybe there's something with like one player is beamed in at the start of the game, one player is someone who has been on the island for ages, and then there's someone who is the GM who is maybe the secret controller of the island in some way.
Yeah. Like they've always been playing a character, but you don't reveal that until the ending. And it's like they've been the GM, but no, they're actually the prison guard from the prisoner or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably obvious enough. Like, I don't think it would be that much of a twist that the GM who controls the island would at some point have like a villainous figurehead they get to also play. So I don't think we don't need to like telegraph it too much, but also I don't think we should treat it as a big dramatic reveal.
Yeah.
But then I think also here the thing about narrowing this to free players, why that would be more than just a gimmick, is I guess this allows you to focus a lot on the singular relationship between the character from the past who has been stuck on this Lost World Island for ages to the character from the present who immediately wants to get home.
Yeah, I think it's kind. I do find it difficult to like build relationships, at least in like short games, between like a big group of people. So like this game focusing on the relationship between the two characters would be a lot more.
Yeah, I think like that's the fun I've had in playing free player games, even when not planned, even if it's like GM and 1 and 2 or things that are GMless or free, where it's just like, yeah, you end up having a lot more back and forth conversations between two specific characters. And I do think that builds to a more sort of interesting dynamic. I think it's a thing where if you introduce a fourth player to this game who is from a middle era between them, it does dilute the relationship you'd be getting, especially what it is almost definitely a one-shot game. This is almost definitely like building up to the escape or the failure to escape. I think we've justified this game's free playerness.
Yeah, we've done it.
But how would you? What kind of system do you think would be fun for this? I'm like, part of me is almost like, I thought this being a kind of fast-paced adventure game, I think it is maybe like dice-based. I think there'd be a fun in the fact that the two characters would have a really different skill set.
Yeah.
So maybe they have access to an entirely, like, I don't know, if you did something PBTA-esque, there'd be no basic moves. They'd have access to entirely different moves. That could be,
or like
I
one
think, the fun
player's
angle.
using a D20 and one's using 2D6 or some shit like that.
That could be fun if gimmicky.
Probably a bit, yeah.
It's all like, obviously the whole game is a gimmick, but that in a weird way, I feel like
it's a hat and a half.
Also, that does feel a bit harder for the GM figure, whereas just having to different move lists to check, I think, is not as complicated.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, obviously, what it would be if you went with a different system. You could probably do something like belonging outside belonging based. Which would obviously be like there, it would all be about their token play. I think how much of the I feel some of the fun of the Lost World setting is that realistically a GM can just draw on whatever area they feel comfortable knowing enough about, or that
Yeah.
they know the players don't know enough about. I'd be like, no, okay, people here are nerds on World War II, so I'm going to avoid any of that. But they don't know shit about dinosaurs, so
Yeah, I like it in a sort of gonzo. Yeah, I could throw anything into here and it makes sense. Like, and now there's a
yeah.
giant robot. Fuck you.
I think maybe like there's a character creation section for the GM for like creating the villain or the secret behind the Lost World
Yeah.
Island. Um, Also, that gives them a bit more to do in character creation. That's sometimes I think that's often a thing anyway. Is like if in GM'd games where obviously you don't create a character at the same time, if character creation isn't super complicated and you don't need to help people, it is a bit of twiddling your thumbs moments,
Yeah.
you know?
I'll go make the cuppa. Yeah.
Yeah, and I maybe like there's probably I'm once again thinking of how big is this book, and I'm like, max I could see is 60 pages.
It's a pretty thick zine, but it's not paperback.
But this, admittedly, this I do think would be a fun thing to pair with that Witches of Oz game if I wrote that. And I could see the value of a fun. This is an anthology of specifically free player games. Mainly also because I think the thing with anthologies is they do need to have a thing that ties them together when they're collections by me. They can't just be here's 3 to 5 games I wrote.
Yeah.
Because then they kind of eat each other. Whereas like I'm with the Damned and Other Games is usefully distinguished by tarot and music. That appeals to different reasons for the Out of the Fold and Other Games, which is playing cards. Here I wouldn't necessarily need to have like the mechanics and utensils be the same if they're all linked by, a tight exact player count.
Yeah. I like that in sort of selling it to specific people rather than like, do you like card games? Do you like tarot? It's like, no. Oh, there's 3 of you there. There's 3 people in your group. Would you like this 3-player game book?
Yeah, it's useful, definitely. Like, it's because Out of the Fold, I remember selling to someone specifically on the basis of they were a fan of poker. I'm with the Damned was very simple to sell, like, because it has, I think, a tighter narrative focus. And yeah, I think like if this free player thing, it'd be like I think I could envision the conversations I'd have about the game. In spite of this episode, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to write this as a book. I'm just like, oh, that's a fun idea.
Yeah, you're spitballing.
If maybe, if any of these like, I don't know, every now and then when I'm like stuck on ideas, I do look back through Game Soup episodes. Often I'm like, oh man, we really pitch a lot of games I could never see myself writing.
It is good for a little wellspring of ideas, though.
Yes. There's sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, lot of loose party games, which is not my space.
Oh dear.
I was just before we sign off thinking about do I have anything to mention or promote coming up? I don't, other than the fact of like, check out A Fistful of Stars pre-launch page on BackerKit, but that's not super immediately. I've not booked any specific nearby appearances or anything. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
You should buy tickets for AirCon in March because I'm going to be there and you can buy all my books.
I think Laura's also doing a day at AirCon. What day are you doing? Are you doing the whole weekend?
We're doing the whole weekend. We're exhibiting, so.
Yeah. I know some people are doing one-day exhibits, but also I guess you're closer.
Yeah.
Though, not as much closer as I'm imagining, right?
No, but we're going to stay with Alyssa's parents in Leeds, so it's not too bad.
Anyway, so yeah, that's everyone's next available time to see Chloe. Are you going to have anything new at AirCon, or?
I mean, if the winds are fair and the sun is right, we might have bitter cold.
Ooh.
No promises, but
This podcast's tagline could be no promises.
That's true.
Thank you for listening to Game Soup.
No
No
promises.
promises.